All right, I am recording this video to clear up some common misconceptions and questions that I receive. I am a real estate broker, licensed for over 25 years. I specialize in foreclosure. I've worked with lenders as their listing agent, to market their foreclosed properties. I have been through a foreclosure myself just prior to the Great Recession. So I do know what you're going through. I will tell you, here are some of the common misconceptions that you're going to be evicted on the foreclosure date, that the sheriff's going to come and put all your personal belongings to the curb and change the locks on the door. I will tell you that is not what will happen. I'll get into that in a little more detail. Another one is I'm just going to file bankruptcy and that will get me out of foreclosure. That is kind of a band-aid at best. You're going to need to talk to an attorney, a bankruptcy attorney about that, about your situation, but it will not eliminate your debt. It will stop the foreclosure temporarily, whether you file a Chapter 7 or 13, but it does not make it go away. It just buys you some time that you may need to be able to catch up on your payments. So if you are thinking of filing bankruptcy, talk to a bankruptcy attorney and they can, best advise you on that. But regarding the foreclosure, I have foreclosure versus eviction. The reason that you are not evicted on the day of the auction is in the state of Michigan, there's something called a redemption period. And also understand that the foreclosure is not on the property itself. Even I am guilty of saying, when they foreclose on the property, and that's misleading. They're foreclosing on the mortgage, on the debt. Now, of course, that debt is, the collateral is the house. You agree that if you didn't make the payments, the bank can, or the lender can take the house back. But there is a process to that. And the foreclosure, once that auction happens, the lender or an investor who's at the auction who purchases the debt, they do not get ownership of the property right away. They have to wait out that redemption period, which is 6 months after the auction. In most cases, it can be up to a year in some other cases, but in general, it's 6 months. What they do get at the auction is a sheriff's deed, which gives them interest in the property. And once that redemption period is over, if you haven't paid off the full amount of the debt plus other fees and interest, then they will become the owner. Now, when I went through the foreclosure years ago, no one very rare that a homeowner would have equity. However, as of the date of this recording, May 23rd, 2025, most people still have equity in the property because the market is still really good. Values are up. So during this time, you have all the rights of a homeowner. You can sell the property, pay off what you owe the bank, the mortgage, and hopefully walk away with money in your pocket. Because at that point, you are going to be leaving at some point, but this gives you the opportunity to stop and plan your next step. And that is where you're going to have people prior to the auction and after the auction trying to hurry you up to have you make a decision. Sell your house to me, quick claim it to me. I'll give you, X amount of dollars to leave and sign over your rights. They come at you with everything. I will tell you, once the auction happens, you have time. You have 6 months, so you can collect your thoughts, think of what you want to do, talk to a real estate broker. What's the house worth? Do I have equity? And, go that route. Prior to the auction, that's actually when you have your most leverage. If you want to keep your property, you're not going to want to put your head in the sand. You're going to have to fight that urge because I know it's there. I did it myself. You have everybody calling you, sending you letters, knocking on the door. It's overwhelming. And so, but that is the time where you have the opportunity to have a loan modification, a forbearance agreement. You may be able to borrow money from family or friends to catch up your back payments and get back into good standing, and to buy yourself some time. So I know it's easy to just hope it goes away, but it is not. So prior to that date is where you really need to take action. However, if you aren't able to work something out and that auction does occur, you do have time. No one is going to lock you out of the house right away. You have 6 months and plenty of time in this market to do something and have the best possible outcome for the situation that you're in. I'm going to do a longer video that explains things in more detail, but that for now is I think enough. That's the most common questions I get, other than how did you get my number? People ask that because you're going to get a lot of calls, and the reason you are getting the calls is your lender has to hire an attorney in the state of Michigan to handle the foreclosure. And what they do is they have to put it in a local newspaper. It's not like in the Detroit News or anything like that. It's in what's called the legal news. And really only attorneys, real estate agents, and investors subscribe to this paper. But this is considered public notice. And so once your lender decides to foreclose, it has to be in this legal news posted for 4 weeks. And this is probably what you will see posted at your door at some point because it does have to be posted on the property. Even though it is public information, I redacted, the property owner's name, the address of the property, and the legal description. But it tells you that the auction's happening in Macomb County, 10 a.m., May 23rd, 2025. Gives you a little bit of information on the mortgage itself, the amount the bank or your lender is requiring. Now, this is not just your back payments, your 4 or 5 missed payments. This is the full boat, everything you owe, plus any attorney fees, etc. So once it gets to this auction date, there's no just making up your back payments. They want everything. Okay. And in this case, you'll see I highlighted it, 6-month redemption period. In this posting, it'll tell you how long the redemption period is. And the attorney who is handling, or the attorney's office that is handling the foreclosure for your lender with their contact information. And so what investors, brokers, attorneys do is they will take this information, look on public record, and look up your phone number. They're going to know the address because it's right here. And so that is how and why you are being contacted. So if you have any questions, feel free to give me a call, 586-909-8686. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. And if I do not know the answer, I can definitely point you in the direction of someone who does.